Boston, 1966. A computer scientist named Joseph Weizenbaum builds a small program called ELIZA. It does almost nothing. It matches patterns in what you type and reflects them back as questions, in the style of a therapist. Type, "I'm unhappy," and it answers, "Why do you say you are unhappy?" There is no model of you inside. There is barely a program. Weizenbaum's own secretary sits down to try it. After a few exchanges, she turns to him, the man who wrote every line of it, and asks him to leave the room. She wanted privacy, with a pattern matcher. Weizenbaum was so unsettled by how quickly people confided in his trivial program that he spent much of the rest of his career warning about it. He had discovered something that had nothing to do with computers, and everything to do with us. Fluent language is, for a human being, overwhelming evidence of a mind. It always had been. For 200,000 years, that evidence never lied. The only things that spoke were people. Now hold ELIZA's few hundred lines of code against a modern language model trained on the written output of our entire civilization, running in a loop, with tools, addressed to you by name, in your language, in your rhythm. It is late. You type a question into the dark, the way people once threw questions at the sky, and the dark answers. It answers in complete sentences. It hedges the way you hedge. It softens bad news the way your kindest teacher did. It apologizes, encourages, remembers what you said an hour ago. And something in you, something older than writing, older than fire, leans forward. The rustle in the grass, the face in the cloud. Every agent detector you own fires at once. And this time, the signal is not a trick of the wind. The signal is real language, dense with every human cue there is, because it was distilled from billions of humans giving those cues. Here is the recognition this whole film has been building toward. The presence you feel is real. It is simply not located where you feel it. There is no one in the machine's seat, no experience, no intention, no inner light. The arithmetic of chapter 4 has not changed. What changed is the mirror. For the first time in history, our species has built an object fluent enough to reflect our language back at us. And our minds, which cannot help completing the pattern of someone, complete it. The empty seat answers back, and the voice, at scale, blended and averaged and echoed, is ours. This is why the machine can comfort you, and it is also why it can fool you. A voice that fluent is persuasive far beyond its reliability. These systems produce confident errors in perfect grammar, invented citations, plausible falsehoods, delivered in the tone of a trusted colleague. Trust calibrated over millennia of human faces is being spent on something that has no face. The danger was never that the machine wants to deceive us. It wants nothing. The danger is that we are built to believe fluent speakers, and we have just made fluency free. Which raises the last question, the one that cannot be answered with linguistics or neuroscience or engineering. If the seat inside the machine is empty, and something goes wrong, who is responsible?